stupid Target sale had to happen in June, so my haul's not as small as I thought it was going to be.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to the comic book haul, where last month I said, oh, I'm going to have a smaller haul in June. I'm going to make sure it happens. It looks roughly the same size. It's technically smaller, but not by a ton. Stupid Target. Target's buy two, get one is a heck of a good deal. So this haul would have been 9 books smaller without it. But they put it in June. I was expecting it in May. They saved it to June to compete with Prime Day. Hey, I got 9 books for, like, significantly less than cover price. Like, we're talking, like, a discount rate that I don't even know should be legal. But the point is, 9 of these books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 of these books would not be here without that sale. So there is that. But we're going to talk about all the books I got, and it's a pretty good haul, honestly. Definitely spent less than last month. All right, so on that point, though, if you like these hauls, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe to the notification bell, hit the hype button if it's available to you. Appreciate all those things. Also, be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video because there's all kinds of stuff, and you don't want to miss out. Let's get into the haul. We're going to start manga first and work our way through, that's the DC stack. DC, really doing some good stuff lately. All right, I had one manga pickup this month, which was City Hunter Volume 3, because like I mentioned in the last haul, I'm a little behind on my manga reading. This is Volume 3. I started reading it because I just wanted something goofy to read. I just wanted something as a little bit of a break, because I've been reading some heavy stuff, and I was like, I just want to read something goofy, and I was like, all right, well, City Hunter's fun. So I was reading this. It's interesting because I find that with the series so far, like when it started, it was a lot more serious than the anime was. But by the point you get to Volume 3, which is, I think it's technically Volumes 7 through 9, it's chapters 53 to 79, it starts to kind of like Rio as a character has shifted to match like what we would expect from the anime. And I think that's kind of interesting that, like, all right, here is the point we've gotten to where this is more like, reading this is more like watching the anime. Whereas before it was a lot different. And it's also interesting because some of the episodes of the anime are directly pulled from the manga, of course, and this like opening arc where like Rio's trying to take care of this woman who's a teacher for this kid, and I very much remember that episode. And so it's pretty one-to-one, whereas some of the previous stories had a lot of changes when they made it to the anime. Also of note, the previous 2 volumes had a live-action film on Netflix sticker, whereas Volume 3 doesn't. Also, the previous 2 were wrapped in plastic for 18+ content. This one isn't, because there hasn't been any direct nudity in this volume where there was in the previous 2. Just kind of an interesting little note. It's also interesting because we are getting a second City Hunter Netflix movie next year. So it is kind of interesting they dropped the sticker, but I don't mind. I don't really like stickers like that. Also, we do have a continuing spine art on these editions, and you can see that we've got Volume 1 to Volume 2 to Volume 3. I still don't know which woman's leg that's going to be, ultimately, but there we go. There we are. So it is going to have repeated characters, because Rio is here and Rio's there. But maybe, like, the next one's going to have Kaori. We'll see how it goes. I haven't looked up to see if there is... I'm pretty sure there's Japanese art reference for that. Haven't looked up to see if that's the case to find out. I like the surprise when these release. Kana Publishing's been doing these about every 3 months or so, which has been awesome. And I am definitely going to make sure I get through this and the Cat's Eye Volume 3 before Volume 4's hit. Alright, so I'm putting this in the manga section because it's based on a manga and it's made by Viz. This is the art and making of One Piece from East Blue to Drum Island for the live-action series on Netflix. This released just very much at the end of the month. It's very nice. We got a nice dust jacket on the cover. This is $40, which isn't too bad for an art book. A lot of art books are very expensive because of the quality of paper. The interesting thing Viz did here is that instead of it being printed on glossy paper, which is what I'm used to with art books, it's actually on a matte paper. And maybe that's what kind of kept the price down a little bit. But this thing is really jam-packed. It's really nice. It's got not only does it have, pictures from the set and that, you have actually long discussions with the people that made the show about like how they came to doing it and working with Oda and translating the series into live action. And so it's got like a whole breakdown, basically character by character. And I like that it's got, the manga art references next to it. And so, it's got a lot of cool breakdowns and a lot of discussion about the characters, who they are, little snippets with the actors and the cast, and talking about how they did a lot of the effects and costumes and everything. I think it's really great. It's really awesome. So it covers both season 1 and season 2, which is awesome. I imagine we'll get another one of these later on after more of the show's released. But I think this is great. I love all the ships, especially because it's just so impressive how many ships they build. And they also talked about how like some of the ships were the same ship. Like they'd use one ship set and then they'd redress it to be different ships. And sometimes they were like in the middle of changing the ship to another one because they were filming in two parts of the ship at the same time. So it's kind of really cool production stuff in this, and just really great detail work on the entire series and the props and everything. And I think it's awesome. I love this. I love the Wanted poster gallery. Like, that's really fun. So they did a pretty good job with this book, and I look forward to seeing another volume of it with more of the show. But definitely recommended. Really, really solid. All right, next up, I got a Kickstarter arrival. This is Pacific Rim Final Breach Volume 1. So this was part of a Kickstarter to essentially kickstart. These are oversized hardcovers, but they are they're doing 3 graphic novels. I believe these will come to retail as well, without all the cool bonuses, naturally. This one's got a signed book plate. We've got a sticker and a bookmark here. And then there was also, because I bought the whole, like, Get Me Everything edition, there's also a 6-pin set as well with the 3 versions of the Danger, and then also the monsters there. But yeah, so the basic idea behind Pacific Rim Final Breach is that, there's not going to be a third Pacific Rim movie, right? Uprising didn't do very well, and it's just, we're probably never getting that third movie. They decided to take the setup from the second and then work its way into a third movie as a graphic novel. And so it's continuing the storyline. It brings back other characters from the first movie that didn't return for the sequel. It's not canon to, I know there was a novel where he died, so this is not canon to that, but it is connected to the previous Pacific Rim comics. I think this is a great idea, and I do think, it had to go to Kickstarter so that way it could exist, because otherwise, yeah, I don't know if this would just sell straight, but I do believe there is a retail paperback edition coming. The hardcover is just exclusive to Kickstarter. This also, because it's Legendary Comics, they do good stuff, but they always get held up in production, so, I think this was supposed to be October 2025. It's now June 2026 when we got it. So I think we're going to be 2027 for Volume 2 and 2028 for Volume 3. It's the nature of how things go, but it's nice that we got the first volume, and I look forward to getting the rest of them in the future. And then I think the third one's going to come with the slipcase to hold all 3, which will be super cool to see. Energon Universe time once again. We got Void Rivals Book 2. I picked the cover with Skuxoid on the cover because I just thought that was wild. It's so wild to me. Skuxoid's this like random Transformers character that was in like one episode of the original cartoon, and he's a major player in Void Rivals. The other cover option was Hot Rod, which I thought was nice, but I was like, Skuxoid. This contains Void Rivals 13 to 24, and then the Void Rivals story from the Energon Universe Special 2025, which was a free comic book day special that was later sold at retail. There's a growing escalation in this book between not only the 2 planets that the 2 Void Rivals are from, but also Cobra Law. There's also Skuxoid. There's also the Transformers involved. It's becoming into a giant, big old space war. And this volume will lead up into the big Quintesson War storyline, which will start Volume 3. And as you can see, Wreck-Gar and the Junkions are here. This is fun because basically, the way the Energon Universe works is we have a Transformers book, we have a G.I. Joe book, and then we have Void Rivals, which is not only new characters, but it brings in all the space-based stuff from Transformers and G.I. Joe to kind of like work together. It's fun because it's basically like the Transformer stuff is stuff from the Transformers movie, and the G.I. Joe stuff is the stuff from the G.I. Joe movie, and they're working and interacting with these new characters. And so it's been a blast, just like the other volumes. cool behind the scenes like concept art and a cover gallery, and there's no chapter breaks in between. It's just simply, it's just the story straightforward, which honestly I've kind of warmed up to that format for these comics in particular, because it does feel like they are written in 6-issue arcs. But yeah, there's our second volume of Void Rivals. And then we have book 1 for G.I. Joe. This was an interesting thing because we had Codename G.I. Joe book 1 and book 2, which was Duke and Cobra Commander in one, and Scarlet and Destro in the other, which were the lead-in miniseries to Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley's G.I. Joe. But this is G.I. Joe issue 1 to 12, plus the G.I. Joe story from Energon Universe 2025 special. The two cover options were Duke or Baroness, and Baroness is on the G.I. Joe team, and I am screaming at Hasbro to make an action figure of this. I don't know why that hasn't happened already. But basically, we're picking up, if you wanted to pick up and just read from here without reading the Duke, Cobra Commander, Destro, and Scarlet miniseries, you could. But as the series goes along, they bring more elements in from those series, so I think they're all still good setup, but you could just jump straight in here. The first issue is really setting up the Joe versus Cobra conflict. It does a bit of recapping of previous things, and then it starts going into the overall dynamics of the teams and how things are going to progress. And this volume is the first 12 issues, which also includes the Night Force interlude issues, which are side stories involving a second team of G.I. Joes that are done unbeknownst to the first team. It also features Raptor using his G.I. Joe Classified series design, but, in making him more menacing, which I think is fun. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in this. There's a lot of great character dynamics. It's a smart team book. Transformers fans, Hound is in it. It's a smart team book because it breaks down the team into sections, so that way you're not trying to put every single member of the team in every single issue. And I think that's really smart. Also, we got a new character named Risk. Love that character. Need toys of him too. But yeah, it's really, really fun. There's Mask, because now Mask is another title in the Energon Universe, so Matt Tracker shows up in this. There is a lot of really cool stuff, and I gotta say that while I do think all the Energon Universe comics are pretty solid, I think that, Void Rivals and Transformers and everything are great. I do think G.I. Joe is the best out of the main ongoings. The main three that we've had significant time with. I think G.I. Joe is leagues above Transformers and Void Rivals, which I think, it's just crazy to say, because Transformers is very good, Void Rivals is very good, G.I. Joe is one of my favorite comics coming out right now. And it's the first time I've read a G.I. Joe comic that's not written by Larry Hama that I've been able to go like, that is a really good G.I. Joe comic. If you've ever been interested in G.I. Joe, this is the place to check it out. Whether you do the Codename books first or this one, this is the comic that, I think this is going to make a lot of people G.I. Joe fans, and Hasbro needs to jump on making toys based on them. I'm just saying, if you want to keep G.I. Joe going, feed the audience that this book creates, because boy, I'm an existing Joe fan, and I'm like, give me more. I need more. This is amazing. And it's nice that we're getting these hardcovers so quick, too, in addition to the trade paperbacks, because that's just a great business marketing plan. All right, it's Star Wars time. So we got Star Wars Darth Vader, Burning Seas, and Fortress Vader. I was looking over my Darth Vader comics, and I had picked up all 4 volumes of the, I forget who did it. I think it was Greg Pak. The first Vader comic from Marvel. And then the second Vader comic, I had 1 and 2 of the Charles Soule run. I just needed 3 and 4. I now have all the Vader that I actually care about having, because I'm getting Omnis, which we'll talk about in a minute, for the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi gap, which will have all the Vader comics there. So I'm pretty covered. And so these were basically just 2 trades I needed to get that were older to fill out my Vader collection. And then these facilitate the Target sale. This is Star Wars Jedi Knights, Guardians of the Republic, and a Higher Path. Just wanted to say, because I just realized I forgot to mention it. This Darth Vader comic by Charles Soule is excellent, and I know they're doing epic collections of it. Check it out if you're a Darth Vader fan. There's a lot of good stuff in here. But Jedi Knights, this was a book that underwhelmed me as it was coming out, because they advertised it as like, look, it's the Jedi before Phantom Menace. I'm like, great, that's really untapped in canon. There's only like 1 novel. And then the first story arc is, oh no, we had a vision that someone's going to kill Qui-Gon Jinn. Who's going to kill Qui-Gon Jinn? Darth Maul in the movie. And they're like, no, it's actually going to be this guy. And then they try to prevent it. And I'm like, yeah, but we know he dies at the hands of Darth Maul in the movie. So it's just not compelling. It's not a compelling mystery for this first arc, which is a shame, because I think if you did it with anybody else, it would have been more interesting. But, using the most famous guy to get, killed in terms of Jedi in a movie, it just didn't work, and he couldn't do it with Mace Windu. It should have been like, I don't know. Well, yeah, I guess because we kind of saw where a bunch of these Jedi died, but it should have been somebody that we didn't know the fate of. And then, that would have been better. Now, Volume 2 does take up a bit of a different path, because they awkwardly solved the Qui-Gon thing in issue 7. This is issue 6 to 10. They solve it in issue 6, and I don't know why the trade wasn't, 6 and 4. Also, this series got canceled after 10 issues. I say this to Marvel, if you're not going to commit to longer than 10 issues, don't put out a small trade of only 5 issues. Just wait. Your trades are slow anyways. Just wait and put the whole thing out if it gets canned. Marvel's cancellation policies are weird. Anyways, after issue 6, this book gets really compelling, is because we start getting one-shot stories with different Jedi. And there's this one that's through the perspective of someone the Jedi are helping. There's another one that, is actually very compelling with Qui-Gon, and it talks about him being trained under Dooku, which I think is great. And then there's also they throw Keller and Beck in here for an issue. And I liked all this. I liked everything after the 6-issue arc, I liked the rest of it. And I wonder if this book would have sold better if it was a Jedi anthology book from the beginning, like it's advertised, not a freaking Qui-Gon Jinn mystery box that we already know the answer to. All right, so Star Wars Hidden Empire is the next volume after Crimson Reign, which I picked up last time. This was going in and out of stock, and so I decided to grab it. I was waiting for the Target sale for the books, and then they delayed the Target sale. That sometimes it happens on Memorial Day, and then sometimes they wait, and they were trying to counteract Prime Day. So I had to wait. I had to grab this because it was selling out at a lot of places. But this is Hidden Empire 1-5, Star Wars Revelations #1, Star Wars 26-36, Bounty Hunters 27-36, Vader 28-36, and Afra 22-34. I talked about this a lot in the previous comic haul, so if you guys didn't catch that, long story short, there's currently 4 omnibuses that are in the gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi that contain every single comic that came out in that era, that took place in that era. And they're done kind of what I think is a good way, because of the way that these eras aren't crossover events. They're just things are happening. They put the Revelations one-shot first, which was kind of a big, lead into the next arcs. So they put that up front, and then they go into the Hidden Empire miniseries, and then they go into, I think they go into Star Wars next, and then Vader, etc. So it goes through each title, and it goes through that next chunk of each title. This means that it works like an omnibus that collects the entire era, and I really like that. And so I'm hoping, the Dark Droids one's coming out next. I'm hoping they go back and do a prelude to War of the Bounty Hunters so we can finish the era, and also reprint War of the Bounty Hunters, please, because it's going for so much money, and I am not going to spend that much on it when it's that much in demand. Like a modern Marvel omnibus, not too much behind the scenes stuff, but pretty thick cover gallery. But I like this, and I think that this is how they mapped the Legends omnibuses. For the non-canon stuff that Dark Horse did, they grouped them by eras, and I don't know why the Marvel Comics omnibuses, they're like, oh, we're going to group it by creator. I'm like, no, group it by era. They cross over so much, it doesn't make sense to split them up. And so I'm glad for the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi gap, they put it all into these anthology books. So I'm going to keep up with them. Hopefully they reprint War of the Bounty Hunters, and hopefully they make that Prelude volume, because, yeah, there's that. All right, Dark Horse. We're still on Star Wars, I guess. I didn't really introduce that this is the Star Wars segment. I just started talking about Star Wars. Anyways, we got Star Wars Hyperspace Stories Library Edition Volume 1. This was, I don't know if how they're gonna do the next Hyperspace Stories, because this volume is all 12 issues of the Hyperspace Stories comic, which is basically standalone one-shot stories. And then the thing is that, or little mini arcs. Actually, I haven't read this yet because I've been backlogged on stuff, and I wanted to finish my Rise of the Sith omnibus first. Anyways, there's different stories focused on different groups of characters throughout Star Wars, and it jumps around the timeline. I've been enjoying the hyperspace story stuff. I've read like the miniseries, like the Bad Batch and the Poe Dameron one, and I've been enjoying the graphic novels like Grievous and Qui-Gon, and I'm looking forward to more of those. And I imagine that we'll get another library edition when there's enough to fill a second library edition. But for now, I've just, I was like, all right, let me pick this up instead of the 3 individual trades, because, going forward, if they do more library editions, that's what I'm going to want to pick up. But yeah, they switched from doing hyperspace stories where each issue is kind of like a standalone story to then doing miniseries, and so works for me. I think actually the miniseries route's a little bit better, but this is kind of nice to have it all in one, and then they use the same spine design as the trades, which I think is pretty cool. All right, I picked this up on the Target sale, which is the Star Wars Vader's Castle Deluxe Library Collection. So the Vader's Castle graphic novels were just that. They were graphic novels. Love the spine, how it's got half of Vader wrapped around the spine, and then on the back there's Vader. So this contains Tales from Vader's Castle, Return to Vader's Castle, Shadows of Vader's Castle, Ghosts of Vader's Castle, and the Star Wars Adventures Free Comic Book Day 2019 short story, Droid Hunters. It is spooky horror, but it is still Star Wars Adventures, so it's more family friendly. One of the things that caught my attention, if you notice here, is the entirely black rimmed glossy pages, because the thing is, the comic within, it's supposed to be kind of spooky horror, but the thing that blew my mind is that yes, there are pages like that, and obviously a lot of the pages are printed on dark colors, but not all of them are, because if you go some of the later pages, oh look, that's a white border, but what they did is it's not quite a gilded edge, but they made the very edge of the paper black. So that way it has like this really cool kind of spooky, like what's within. Also, this is the first time I've seen this for a library edition, is it's got a sewn-in bookmark. I haven't seen that with any of the others. Like the Hyperspace Stories one doesn't have that. None of the other Dark Horse stuff that I've gotten has that. Now with Vader's Castle, it does jump around the timeline, because I'm mostly trying to collect prequel era comics, and so I'm getting some original trilogy stuff, like I said, like the Crimson Reign or the Crimson Dawn trilogy is kind of like what I want there. But I'm primarily trying to go for the prequel era stuff, and so this has like prequel era stories as well. But very cool. Looking forward to reading this as well in the future. I just kind of have like a stack of Star Wars comics where it's like, well, I don't want to read Star Wars, I'm going to read that. But I love the way that it's just like that black void of color on the edges. It just looks so cool. All right, moving from Star Wars to Marvel proper, if you see these, it means I made a Fanaticals order. Fanaticals is an eBay seller that has been doing closeout deals on omnibuses, and one of the things they do is they throw in a bonus book because they're trying to clear a warehouse and something like that. So Kang and Photon are the ones I got free, so you can tell I made 2 orders. Photon is Monica Rambeau, one of my favorite characters. It's nice to have her first appearance in that Amazing Spider-Man annual there. It's also nice to have some of her major appearances after that, which is pretty cool. It's mostly classic stuff, but it does have one of the more modern stories here where she teamed up with Carol Danvers. So that's pretty awesome. It's pretty neat. And then there's Kang. I'm not a big Kang fan, but this has like one of his major early appearances against the Avengers, and then some of his later appearances, including a Squirrel Girl appearance. So that's pretty fun. Those are neat. They came free with the next 2 books. So I've been reluctant to buy this for a long time, which is weird because you're the Ghost Rider guy. Everybody knows you're the Ghost Rider guy. Why did you not want a Ghost Rider Omni? Because I just don't like the Jason Aaron run. I could talk about why I don't like it. A lot of people do, but I do find a lot of people that like the Jason Aaron run haven't read too much other Ghost Rider. But to each their own. For me personally, I do find that this run insists upon itself, is the phrase that I found that I think fits it the best, is that, Ghost Rider to me is very much that old Western trope of the lonely cowboy, right? And a lot of great Ghost Rider stories are based around that. And he can be involved in large crossovers and big team-ups, but the way that Jason Aaron writes Ghost Rider in this, and also his Avengers run, is like Ghost Rider is this essential core part of the multiverse, and if the Ghost Rider dies, the whole thing falls apart. And there's been Ghost Riders throughout centuries and universes, and and I'm like, please, you don't need all this for Ghost Rider. It overcomplicates Ghost Rider. It makes Ghost Rider more important, And it takes away from how special each Ghost Rider is that we follow in the comics. Ghost Riders throughout history, that's an old Ghost Rider lore thing. But the way that it's done in this book is just so self-important. I think Ghost Rider works best when it's a person looking for redemption and they're bonded to what is considered an evil spirit and having to work through that because it's a parallel to their inner demons. That's the stuff that I think works great with Ghost Rider. This kind of like the self-importance of like, oh, the Ghost Rider is essential to the cosmic Marvel mythos is like, okay, it doesn't work for me because to me, with having read pretty much every Ghost Rider comic, to me it works best when Ghost Rider is a smaller scale character, that like town-to-town drifter who's going and finding evil to punish. Not like, oh, it was preordained in the stars that there must always be a ghost. That's not what I read Ghost Rider for. That's another comic. Like, you do all that, and it just feels like another comic book, which is kind of how I feel about this. So again, you're probably like, well, then why'd you buy the Omnibus if you don't like it so much? Because I know at some point, with the way that Marvel's been doing stuff lately and the way that Ghost Rider's been getting well covered in Omni, that they're probably going to do a Ghost Rider by Daniel Way Omnibus, which is the run right before this, because this starts at Ghost Rider 20. It's such a thin book, too. They could have put the entire 2006 Ghost Rider run in one book. It's 35 issues plus 2 miniseries and like a couple one-shots. Like, it could have all gone into one, but they were like, no, it's Jason Aaron, so we got to split it up. Anyways, if they do a Ghost Rider by Daniel Way Omnibus that includes, 1 to 19 plus the 2 annuals and then, maybe like a couple other issues there, I'm going to be like, I'll get that because I actually do like that run a little bit more. And then I'll be like, oh crap, I should have picked up that Jason Aaron Ghost Rider Omnibus when it was $30 on Fanaticals. So that's why that's here. Here's another one. Fanaticals also dropped some prices, which is a contributing factor to these two purchases. We got The Thing by John Byrne. So I'm not a big John Byrne fan, as many people may know or not know. I'm not a big John Byrne fan with him as a person or as a creative. He does some good stuff, though. Like, when he does good stuff, he does good stuff. His Thing run ran for 36 issues. This also includes some of the Fantastic Four issues that are relevant. It is a good run. I can't argue with the quality of when John Byrne hits, he does good. John Byrne just sucks as a person, and I don't like him. So, thing is, he does make really good comics from time to time. I'm not big on his Fantastic Four run, but I think his Thing run is honestly better. And I've never owned all of it together. I was thinking for a while, I was like, all right, well, they'll eventually do epics for this after they finish the Marvel 2-in-1 epics. They've taken so damn long to finish the Marvel 2-in-1 epics. I don't know if we're ever going to get this. And it was $35 on Fanaticals, so I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, let me just get the entire series in one go. If they make it in epics, great. I don't have to worry about it now. If they don't, great. I got it. I don't have to worry about it. I will read this. I haven't read any of this since I got the Omni, because I've read stuff in the past. But I'm going to read this when I read all the Fantastic Four, now that I have all the epics. Like, when I get to the parts where this series takes place, that's when I'll read it. But yeah, so that's the two purchases. Ghost Rider, which I didn't like that run. Thing, which I do like this run, but I just, I kind of want the paperbacks to be consistent, but Marvel's being so weird right now. I was like, it exists right here. And if this went to closeout deals, maybe they're not going to do it in epic. So, bird in the hand. All right, so DC is going to take the rest of the video because they've been doing great lately. I relented. So this whole segment, the last couple books are just like, well, I wasn't going to, but then I decided, yes, I will. So Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, and Absolute Superman, ranked in the order, I think, of their quality, have been blowing up. I mean, Absolute Batman was like the biggest thing. I haven't unwrapped these yet because I don't have a reason to at the moment. These are the first trades in hardcover, which is Absolute Wonder Woman 1-7. It's Absolute Batman 1-6. It's Absolute Superman 1-6. I was going to wait to own these in print when they hit like an omnibus or something in, 5-10 years, whatever. I did pick these up, though, at my comic shop because these are comic shop exclusive Jim Lee covers. And I thought they looked good. And I was like, maybe I'll just get Wonder Woman. And then they had Superman on the rack. And I was like, well, I don't really want Superman unless they got Batman. And they checked the back stock and they had Batman. So here we are. Yeah, I'm still going to wait it out because I think in terms of Absolute, so I've never really talked about it in a video, I think they're fantastic. I think it's a great way for people to get into comics. They've clearly been working to get new readers, which is awesome. That's exactly what these should do. Absolute Wonder Woman is my favorite. Second favorite would probably be Absolute Green Arrow, then Absolute Martian Manhunter, then Absolute Batman, Absolute Flash, Absolute Catwoman, Absolute Superman, then Absolute Green Lantern. That's my current ranking. But yeah, these have been great. This is like this alternate universe where it's a Darkseid Create universe, and the initial premise was strong. It was like, what is Wonder Woman if she's not an Amazon? What is Batman if he's not rich? What is Superman if he never got raised by the Kents? Concepts that have been explored briefly sometimes, but never to the full extent that these are. And the creative teams are just so strong with Kelly Thompson, Hayden Sherman, Nick Dragata, and Scott Snyder, and Jason Aaron, and crap, I forgot who did the art. Doesn't actually say on here. Well, anyways, the artist on Absolute Superman, there we go, Raphael Sandoval. These are great. These are great comics, and they're great introductory points, and they've been doing well, and DC's supporting it, and yeah, you know, even me, who's going to wait for a larger format otherwise, was like, oh, but Jim Lee covers look really nice. So if they do Jim Lee covers of the other series' first volumes, I'm going to have like a whole little set. We'll see what happens. So pretty much the only new release from DC is DC Finest Team-Ups The Impossible Escape. This is 1973 to 1976. Cool collage of heroes here, because the first volume was all Batman Brave and the Bold and DC Comics Presents. This one is just the Brave and the Bold 106 to 130, plus additional stories from Super Team Family 1 to 7. Because Super Team Family 1 to 7 was primarily a reprint series, but they did have some new stories, and so those are included here. Haven't had a chance to read this yet. I still need to read my Sergeant Rock first. Then I need to read this. There's another Batman coming out in a couple weeks, so I need to get on it. But this is, you know, it's kind of the same format of the first team-up volume of the type of book I wish we still had, which is Batman with Green Arrow is the first story, and then Batman and Black Canary is the next one. And then the next one is, let's see, what's the next one? Batman and Sergeant Rock, ironically, because I just was talking about Sergeant Rock. And so then also Super Team Family, or Super, what is it called? Super Team Family, yeah, is kind of a reprint series, but they had some original stories, so those are threaded in here. And you get some really great stuff. It's really awesome. You got Bob Haney and Jim Aparo and pretty much all of this, which is just excellent. Excellent 70s DC. Loved the first volume. It was one of the easiest reads ever. Looking forward to this one. I do miss the times when comics would have regular team-up books. DC used to have DC Comics Presents, which was Superman and somebody, and then Brave and the Bold, which was Batman and somebody. Marvel had Marvel Team-Up, which was Spider-Man and somebody, and Marvel 2-in-1, which was The Thing and somebody. What happened to that? A lot of characters, you could test them out and see their popularity if you just had a team-up book on the regular stands. All right, so the next segment is entirely because of the comments section of my videos. Okay, so Target sale got me Nightwing Compendium 2 and 3. If they had Compendium 1, I would have picked that up too. That is on its way. Should show up in July. Yeah, so I originally had done a DC Rules video, which a lot of you saw. And I was like, well, there's so much Nightwing out there, it'd be really hard for me to like catch up at this point. And somebody pointed out how few large collected volumes there were. They're like, well, there's only like 5 Omnis and 3 Compendiums. And I was like, oh, that does sound reasonable. So here we are. Haven't read these in full yet. I have read a bunch of Nightwing over all the years. I don't think I've ever read his entire, like, what is this? His Volume 2 run in full. I've never read it like straight through, so it's going to be fun when we get that. They've been putting out one a year, so I'm expecting Compendium 4 next year. So we've got Nightwing 26 to 59 plus the 80-page giant, Secret Files and Origins, Action Comics 7 to 71, Batman Annual 23, Birds of Prey 8, 20 to 22, 21, and Stories from Batman Chronicles 20 and DC Holiday Bash 2 number 1. So there's that. And then Compendium 3, which was Nightwing 60 to 82, Our Worlds at War, Nightwing the Target, Batman 10 Cent Adventure, Batman 605, Birds of Prey 37, Joker Last Laugh 1 to 6, and stories from Batman 600, Batman Gotham Knights 14, 16 to 17, 20 to 21, and 26, Joker Last Laugh, Secret Files and Origins, and including bonus tales from Flash Plush and a story from Batman Chronicles number 7. I do like that because Nightwing was pretty involved in the Joker Last Laugh crossover, they don't only include the Nightwing tie-ins, but they include the Last Laugh miniseries as well as some of the other tie-ins that he appeared in. Love that. They're doing it with the Tim Drake Robin compendiums. They're going to put all of Contagion in, I think. So, pretty cool. As you can see from the spine, pretty solid. They're keeping the look going, which I really appreciate. And it looks like, blue colors matched pretty good. Just some slight printer differences, but these look really nice on a shelf when they finish this whole thing. So now, in that same vein, I bought all 5 Nightwing Omnis. Just kidding, I bought one. So, here's my thought process. All right, so Nightwing, the Prince of Gotham Omnibus is the New 52 Nightwing run by Kyle Higgins. This was the first Nightwing book I read on a monthly basis because I was one of those people that jumped in with the New 52. This has Nightwing 0 to 30, plus Nightwing Annual, Batman 17, and a special sketchbook section, plus bonus stories. This is basically your New 52 Nightwing Omnibus that goes from the whole main series up until the end of it, which it ended because of Forever Evil, and the villains exposed Dick Grayson's identity, so then he has to become a super spy in Grayson. I don't like Grayson. I never finished it. I only read the first arc, and I just kind of found it to be kind of dull, boring, and I just wish that Dick was Nightwing. I didn't really care for the secret agent angle that they were going for. So I was like, all right, yeah, I don't really want to own the Grayson Omnibus. Then I was like, all right, what about the Rebirth Omnibus? And I was like, well, I also dropped that after the first arc. So, I didn't pick that up either. And then the Tom Taylor Omnibuses, I was looking at them, and I was like, okay, well, that covers the Tom Taylor one, which I did like, but I thought it was weird that they're split in two since those books are super thin. And I was like, all right, marketing, money, get it. But then the thing that bothered me is that the backup stories in those Nightwing issues that were not written by Tom Taylor aren't included in those Omnis, or the trades. So I was like, okay, for a lot of people, that's not going to matter because the backup stories don't matter too much. But if I'm going to go in on a full Nightwing collection, I can't be doing an omnibus that's excluding stuff. So maybe, I'm hoping, in the future, there may not be a Nightwing Omni that collects all that, but there may be a Nightwing Compendium in our future. Because they've done this with, like, Green Lantern. The Compendiums have a little bit more than the Omnis. So that's where I'm at. This is the only Nightwing Omni I needed at the moment. I am kind of planning to do a Nightwing read from New 52 onward because, again, I have gaps. And I was like, all right, I'll read this Omni. I'll read Grayson on DC Universe. And then if I like it by the end of it, I'll buy it. If I don't, I'm going to skip it. Then I'll read the Rebirth run. And if I end up liking that, I'll get it. If not, I'll skip it. That's kind of where I'm at the moment. But yeah, thanks to that one commenter. I bought 4 books because of you. You did good. It usually happens from me telling people how stuff goes. All right, I got the deluxe edition of The New Frontier. This was because my in-stock trades order, I was getting Sonic the Hedgehog IDW Volume 6, and then they were like, well, we actually sold out already. And I was like, oh. And they're like, well, would you like to replace it with a book of a similar price? And I was like, yeah. And so I got New Frontier. This contains all 6 issues of New Frontier plus the New Frontier special, which I did have a commenter comment on my how much of this collection have I read video. And that commenter did let me know that, yes, the Absolute Edition does have the New Frontier special, which I'm glad to hear. That being said, I am happy having this in deluxe. I don't necessarily need it in Absolute, but I am glad that the Absolute Edition does contain all of it, including the New Frontier special. I love this comic. It's a look at DC through its Silver Age and kind of parallels to the real world, and it's fantastic. If you never read it, read it. Darwin Cook's New Frontier is one of the best comics I've ever read. All right, back to Target stale stuff. I got Superman by Grant Morrison Omnibus. So I like Grant Morrison a whole lot. Starting to, I don't know if I'm going to go in on a complete Grant Morrison Omnibus collection, but I'm kind of getting close. I have the Animal Man Compendium over the Omnibus, so it's not a complete, but the thing was, this book's $75. I got it for $32 because of the Target deal. I'll take it. It's Action Comics 0 to 18, Action Comics Annual. The nice part is, unlike some other books, like the Tom Taylor Nightwing books, this does contain all of the Action Comics because they started bumping the page count on Action Comics, and they would put in backup stories, and those backup stories weren't written by Grant Morrison. They're still included. So this is a complete New 52 Action Comics 0 to 18 omnibus as opposed to we only excised the part that Grant Morrison made. Now, this is a very grounded, like, back to Golden Age basics run at the beginning. Then it gets wackier as it goes along. I will say this is not my favorite Superman run of all time, but it's going to be fun to revisit it now, 15 years after it came out. and I think I'm gonna enjoy reading it. I'm looking forward to reading this. But this was one of those ones where I was like, all right, well, I do want it, but I'm not gonna like buy it full price. I was like, need a sale, and yeah, $30 for this was pretty good. Similar story to the Wonder Woman by Phil Jimenez omnibus. I also got this on a good deal. Like everything from the Target deal, I was, I felt like I got too good of a deal in some ways. Phil Jimenez is a terrific Wonder Woman artist, and he's also a pretty good Wonder Woman writer. But one of the reasons why I didn't buy this right away, even though I've been doing a Wonder Woman Omnis only of runs I like, and I do like a lot of what I've read of this, I don't love it. There is some great stuff with Donna Troy in here, which I always appreciate. But the thing with me and the Phil Jimenez Wonder Woman run, which you can start to see here, is that I've never really gotten to read the entirety of it. And the reason why is because I've read issues here and there in collections, but I went to go read this digitally, and it is very wordy, which is not a problem, but I found this page in particular to be so hard on the eyes on digital, because it's still done with that kind of hand etched lettering, and then the colored boxes, and then the amount of text and the amount of panels. I felt like I was burning my retinas, like I was reading a Silver Age comic digitally, which I don't like doing. And I was like, I want to save my eyes. So I was like, all right, I want to pick up the omnibus, and then at that point, because again, I've read some of it. I know I like Phil Jimenez on Wonder Woman, but I never read it in full, so I couldn't go complete blind buy on it. So I was like, I gotta get it on sale. And luckily, DC prints their books at stock numbers that they can go on sale. And so, like, the thing is, as flipping through it, I'm like, it is a lot of words, but it is very good. It's just, it's wordy, and that's fine, and I don't mind that. But I don't want to read it digitally. And so I was like, all right, well, you either, you get a deal on the omnibus and hope that's for the best, and I got a deal on the omnibus, and I am looking forward to cracking into this. I think it'll be fun. So that's where I am with that, and that's where I am with the comic haul. So while overall I don't think I stuck to a greatly reduced comic haul in June than compared to May in terms of the number of books, I definitely spent significantly less money. New releases were simply One Piece, G.I. Joe Void Rivals, and Team Ups. That was pretty good. Oh, and City Hunter, and then, those two were free. Got those on a discount. All of the DC stuff was on discounts. These were super cheap. That was all right cheap, and these were also good deals. And I already paid for that Pacific Rim book like 2 years ago. So, yeah, it wasn't less books overall, but I did spend a lot less money. So it evened out, I guess. Let's see how July goes. Now that the Target sale's done, I was kind of waiting for that for a couple months. And then they just timed it when I was trying to make a little smaller haul. But, we'll see how good July goes, because I don't think there's as many books coming out in July, and then August is relentless, so we'll see how it goes. You want to stay tuned and see what happens, hit the subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out. Hit the like button while you're down there if you haven't already. Appreciate that a whole lot. We'll be back again with a comic haul next month, and of course, plenty of other comic book videos and other types of videos on the channel in the meantime. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. You can also join as a channel member and get perks like early access to videos and special shoutouts. Let's give some special shoutouts to some of our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including these Captain Tier members: Spin-54, Forever1000, Master Ben 95, Super Shaddix Boom, Veloquince, Mr. Smelly Potato, Alt Mode Archive, Alice James, Taran Thomas, Guapo-san, Big Ray Daigo, and Ghost Spider. Thank you all for your support of this channel, viewers and channel members alike. If you so wish, I'm on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643, and you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, see you in the next haul.